Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining as we go through question 4, the solution for question 4 of the May-June 2023 CSEC Mathematics paper 2. It's a functions question, and first up we have that f of x is equal to 3 divided by x plus 2, g of x is 4x minus 5, and h of x is x squared plus 1. We ask first up for what value of x is f of x undefined, and by undefined we mean that that we're actually dividing by 0. So division by 0 is one of those things in mathematics that has no meaning, and because it has no meaning we call it undefined. Because if you're trying to divide by 0, we are trying to find out how many times can we take 0 out of 1, and the answer is infinitely many. And because of that, we just describe it as having no meaning at all, because there's literally no answer for it. So for 3 over x plus 2, which is f of x, to be undefined, it means that our denominator has to be equal to 0. So at what point is our denominator 0? Well, we have a simple linear equation here and we can solve it. So we have that x is equal to 0 minus 2, and so x is equal to negative 2. Now at this point, this is our answer here. At this point, if x is negative 2, then substituting negative 2 into the function, negative 2 plus 2 gives us 3 over 0, and as you see here, if we put negative 2 in there, then what we end up with is a situation where we are dividing by 0 and we cannot get a result here. So this is the value, negative 2, that would make the function undefined. So f of x will be undefined at the point when x is equal to negative 2. Alright, moving on, we have g of a quarter, and g of x here is equal to 4x minus 5. We're going to calculate g of a quarter, so let's substitute a quarter into this and see what we get. 4 times a quarter minus 5, or 1/4. So this gives us 4 over 4 minus 5, and of course you know 4 over 4 is 1. 1 take away 5 gives us negative 4. So g of a quarter is negative 4. That's that. Let's move on to the next one. We have this function here. We want to find h of 3. Again, h of x is equal to x squared plus 1. We want to find h of negative 3, beg your pardon. So h of negative 3 is equal to negative 3 squared plus 1. I just want to make a note here, just because, that when you're using your calculator, be careful of how you write these things. So you have your square button on your calculator. Do not press minus 3 square. If you do this, it's going to give you minus 9, because your calculator interprets it as negative 3 square minus 3 square, which is a minus 9, as opposed to minus 3 bracket square, which is negative 3 times negative 3. So I just want to point that out, which is positive 9. Most calculators do not understand when you write, you intend to write this as this, but if you write this, it's going to give you a negative 9. I think the Sharp brand, when you press the negative button, it automatically opens a bracket, but most calculators do not open a bracket when you press the negative sign. So be aware of this. So h of negative 3 here gives us negative 3 squared plus 1, and of course negative 3 squared is a positive 9 plus 1, which gives us 10. So the only way you could get this wrong probably is by not typing this properly in your calculator and therefore getting the wrong result on your device. Put negative 3 in there, square the negative, 9, add it to 1, 10, and we're done. And we're moving on quickly to the next part, where we're finding f of 0. Now, f of 0 is a compound value, we need to find f of 0 first and then put that value back into the same function. So f of x, remember, up here is equal to 3 over x plus 2. Now if we find f of 0, we are going to substitute 0 in there, so we get 3 divided by 0 plus 2, which is 3 over 2. Now we're going to take this value and put it back into the function. So now we're going to find f of 3 over 2, which means we're going to find 3 divided by 3 over 2 plus 2, which means 3 divided by 3 over 2 plus 2 over 1. Let's just write it that way. Let's work out this part first. Doing this quickly, we end up with 3 divided by 3 plus 4, 1, 3, 3, 2 times 4 over 2. So we have 3 divided by 7 over 2. Now when you're dividing fractions, remember you keep, change, and flip. So our answer becomes 3 times 2 over 7, which gives us 6 over 7. All right, and that's that for that one. So the idea here, find f of 0. F of 0 gives us 3 over 2. We do that, and then we put that value back into the same function, work it out again, and we get our result here. All right, now for the next part. Write in its simplest form the composite function g of h of x. Now when you're finding g of h of x, the composite function, you need to take this second function here, the end one, and substitute it into the first one. So we're going to write down the first function. The first function is g of x. G of x is equal to 4x minus 5. And now we're going to replace x in this function with all of this function. So we're going to take h of x, which is x squared plus 1, and put it right here where the x is. So g of h of x, because we're substituting h of x into g, is 4 times x squared plus 1 minus 5. So here's your 4x minus 5, which is g of x, but we have replaced the x with h of x, which is 4x, which is x squared plus 1. Now let's multiply it out since they want it in the simplest form. This gives us 4x squared plus 4 minus 5, and that leaves us with 4x squared minus 1. And that is our composite function g of h of x. Take the end one here, h of x, substitute it for x into g, and of course simplify your answer by multiplying out the bracket, and we're good to go. Next one. Here we want to find g inverse of negative 2. Now g inverse of negative 2 is asking a very different question from something like g of 2. Something like g of 2 would say, or negative 2 would say, put negative 2 into g, work it out, and see what you get. G inverse of negative 2 is asking something quite different. It's asking what number do you put into the g function to get negative 2 at the end. It's also the same thing as, you could write it this way, for what value of x is g of x equal to negative 2. It's pretty much asking the same thing. So what we do is that we take this, notice the negative up there, we take this g function 4x minus 5 and make it equal to negative 2. Now we have a linear equation that we need to solve. So we say 4x is equal to negative 2 plus 5. Therefore 4x is equal to positive 3, and so x would be equal to 3 divided by 4. This is our answer. Just checking it though, because sometimes you might not be sure and you want to check if your answer is correct. If we put 3/4 into G, do we actually get -2 for our answer? So let's see. Let me write it here. Testing. So 4 times 3/4 minus 5 gives us 12/4 minus 5. 12/4 is 3. 3 minus 5, it does give us -2. So when you see it like this, G inverse of x, or something like G of x is equal to -2, it's asking you what value do you put in the function so that you get this number as the answer. And to get that number, what we do is that we make the function equal to the number that we're talking about there and solve the resulting equation, and that gives us the answer that we need. You could also find the inverse function first and then find the function value of that, but there's no point in finding it because that's extra work in finding the inverse function. But of course, you could take that approach. Thank you for watching. We've come to the end of the question. You can find more past papers and past paper questions and solutions on our website at csecmathtutor.com, as well as SBA information and things that will help you to get a better grade at your CSEC mathematics exam. Until next time, thank you for joining us.